When I saw my paycheck was $47 short, I thought it was a mistake. Then HR handed me a breakdown showing exactly how many minutes I'd spent in the bathroom that pay period. Apparently, my company had been timing us, and they'd been doing it for months before anyone noticed. What I did next got me called into a meeting with corporate lawyers, but I wasn't the one who ended up in trouble. I'd been working at Meridian Logistics for almost 3 years. It was a distribution warehouse on the outskirts of the city, and my job was inventory management. Not glamorous, but it paid to bills. The work was physical, the hours were long, and the management was the kind that watched everything you did through security cameras mounted in every corner. Our warehouse manager was a guy named Dennis Kowalski. Dennis was the type of boss who thought fear was the same thing as respect. He'd pace the floor with a clipboard, marking down anyone he caught standing still for more than 30 seconds. He called it efficiency monitoring. We called it something else entirely. For the most part, I kept my head down. I showed up on time, did my job, and tried to stay off Dennis's radar. It worked well enough until February of last year, when everything changed. It started with a company-wide email from corporate. The subject line was "Updated timekeeping policies effective immediately." I remember reading it on my phone during lunch, scrolling through the usual corporate jargon about productivity and accountability. But then I hit a paragraph that made me stop chewing my sandwich mid-bite. Effective immediately, all non-scheduled breaks exceeding approved break times will be deducted from employee compensation at the applicable hourly rate. This includes but is not limited to restroom breaks, personal phone calls, and any other non-work-related activities. I read it 3 times. They were going to dock our pay for using the bathroom. I looked around the break room. Most of my coworkers were on their phones, scrolling past the email without really reading it. A few looked confused. Nobody said anything. That afternoon, Dennis gathered everyone for a meeting on the warehouse floor. He had this satisfied look on his face, like a kid who'd been handed the keys to a candy store. "Listen up," he said, tapping his clipboard. "Corporate's cracking down on time theft. From now on, you get 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. That's it. Anything else, and I mean anything, gets logged and deducted. We've got a new system that tracks badge swipes at the restroom doors. So if you're in there for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes off your check." Someone in the back raised their hand. It was Maria, one of the senior packers. "What if someone has a medical condition? Some of us have digestive issues." Dennis shrugged. "Get a doctor's note. Otherwise, learn to hold it." I felt my jaw tighten. This couldn't be legal, could it? For the first few weeks, I tried to ignore it. I'd use the restroom right before clocking in and hold it until my scheduled breaks. But warehouse work is physical. You're lifting, bending, sweating. You drink water constantly just to stay functional. And when you need to go, you need to go. The first time I saw the deduction on my paycheck was $8 and change. They'd logged me for 19 minutes of non-scheduled break time across 2 weeks. It felt insulting more than anything, like they were nickel and diming us for being human. But it got worse. My coworker Steve had IBS. He'd been dealing with it for years, and everyone knew it wasn't something he could control. The new policy hit him hard. Within a month, his paychecks were showing deductions of $60, $70, sometimes $80. He brought in doctor's notes, but HR said they'd only consider accommodations on a case-by-case basis. Weeks went by. Nothing changed. Steve started coming to work looking pale and exhausted. He told me he'd stopped eating breakfast to avoid triggering his symptoms. He was rationing his water intake. A grown man, dehydrating himself on purpose because our employer decided his medical condition was a form of time theft. That's when I started getting angry. I went home one night and started researching. I'm not a lawyer, but I can read, and I spent hours going through labor law websites, government resources, and legal forums. What I found made my blood boil. Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, employers are required to pay non-exempt employees for all hours worked. And here's the thing about bathroom breaks. The Department of Labor has consistently ruled that short breaks of 20 minutes or less must be counted as compensable work time. You cannot dock someone's pay for using the bathroom, period. I dug deeper. I found state labor board complaints, class action lawsuits, companies that had been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for exactly what Meridian was doing. This wasn't a gray area. This was black letter illegal. The next morning, I printed out everything I'd found. DOL opinion letters, FLSA fact sheets, case summaries. I put it all in a folder and walked into HR. The HR manager was a woman named Patricia. She had one of those permanently neutral expressions that made it impossible to tell if she was listening or mentally composing her grocery list. "I need to talk to someone about the bathroom break policy," I said. Patricia barely looked up at her computer. "What about it?" "It's illegal." That got her attention. She stopped typing and turned to face me. "Excuse me?" I placed the folder on her desk. "The company is violating federal labor law by docking pay for restroom breaks. It's right here. The Fair Labor Standards Act, Department of Labor guidelines, everything. We need to stop this policy immediately and refund everyone the money that's been deducted." Patricia stared at the folder like it might bite her. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, the kind of smile that tells you someone thinks you're about to become their problem. "I appreciate your concern," she said slowly, "but this policy was approved by corporate legal. I'm sure they've edited it thoroughly." "Then corporate legal made a mistake. This is documented. There are precedents. Companies have been sued over exactly what Meridian is doing." Patricia's smile didn't waver. "I'll pass this along to the appropriate parties. Thank you for bringing it to our attention." She picked up the folder and set it on a stack of papers next to her desk. I had a feeling I knew exactly where it was going. Nowhere. I walked out of that office knowing nothing was going to change, unless I made it change. Hold on, I need to pause here because this is the moment I had to make a choice. I could have dropped it, gone back to my station, kept my head down, and let them keep stealing from all of us. So tell me, would you have let it go? Subscribe if you think I did the right thing by pushing back. And drop a comment if you've ever had a company try to pull something this obviously illegal on you. Because what I did next put a target on my back, but it also blew the whole thing wide open. 2 days after my meeting with Patricia, I got pulled into Dennis's office. He was sitting behind his desk with his arms crossed, and there was a write-up form already filled out in front of him. "Close the door," he said. I closed it and sat down. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face neutral. "I've heard you've been causing trouble with HR, making accusations about company policy," Dennis said. I provided documentation showing the bathroom break policy violates federal law. That's not an accusation, that's a fact. Dennis leaned forward. "Let me tell you something. I've been with this company for 15 years. Corporate doesn't make mistakes, and they don't appreciate employees who think they're smarter than the legal department. The law is the law, Dennis. It doesn't matter what corporate thinks." His face reddened. "You're getting a written warning for insubordination and disrupting workplace operations. Sign it." I looked at the form. It accused me of challenging established company procedures and creating a hostile work environment through unfounded allegations. They were building a paper trail, getting ready to fire me. "I'm not signing that," I said. "Then I'll note your refusal and will proceed accordingly." I stood up and walked out without another word. That night, I filed a complaint with the Department of Labor. I included everything: the company-wide email, my pay stubs showing the deductions, the documentation I'd given HR, and the retaliatory write-up. I also reached out to Steve and 3 other coworkers who'd been hit hard by the deductions. They all agreed to add their names to the complaint. Then I did something else. I found a local news station that had an investigative consumer protection segment. I sent them an anonymous tip with all the details. I figured if the company wanted to play hardball, I'd bring in some additional players. 3 weeks went by. Dennis watched me like a hawk, waiting for any excuse to write me up again. I was careful. I documented everything. Every interaction, every instruction, every sideways look. I wasn't going to give them ammunition. Then one morning, I arrived at work to find the parking lot half empty. Inside, people were clustered in small groups, whispering. Something was happening. I found Steve near the loading dock. His face was pale, but he was smiling. Actually smiling for the first time in months. "Did you hear?" he said. "The Department of Labor showed up this morning. They're auditing everything." My heart nearly stopped. "They're here? Right now?" "In the conference room with Patricia and some corporate suits who drove up from headquarters. They've been in there for 2 hours. I walked to my station in a daze. Around me, I could feel the atmosphere shifting. People who'd been afraid to complain were suddenly talking openly. The secret was out. The company was under investigation. Over the next few weeks, the dominoes fell fast. The DOL investigation confirmed what I'd known all along. The bathroom break policy was a clear FLSA violation, but that wasn't all they found. During the audit, they discovered Meridian had also been shaving overtime hours, misclassifying certain workers, and failing to provide proper break documentation. The company had been running a systematic wage theft operation for years. The local news segment aired a month later. They'd interviewed former employees, labor rights advocates, and even got a statement from the DOL regional director. Meridian Logistics was publicly named and shamed. The segment mentioned that the investigation began after an employee complaint, though they didn't use my name. Dennis knew, though. Everyone knew. 2 days after the segment aired, Dennis called me into his office again, but this time there was someone else there, a woman I'd never seen before wearing a corporate badge. "This is Rebecca Chen from corporate HR," Dennis said. His voice was tight. "She needs to speak with you." Rebecca stood and shook my hand. "Mr. Holloway, I want to personally apologize on behalf of Meridian Logistics. The bathroom break policy was implemented without proper legal review, and we take full responsibility for the error. All affected employees will receive full reimbursement for any deductions plus interest." I stared at her. "And the retaliatory write-up I received?" "Already removed from your file. We've also initiated a review of management practices at this facility." She glanced at Dennis, who had gone very still. "There will be changes." Dennis was terminated the following week. Official reason: policy violations and failure to maintain proper workplace standards. Unofficially, everyone knew he was the fall guy. Corporate needed someone to blame, and he'd been the one enforcing the illegal policy with the most enthusiasm. I didn't feel sorry for him. The settlement came through 2 months later. Every affected employee received back pay, interest, and a small additional payment for damages. For Steve, it was almost $400. For some of the longer-term employees, it was even more. But the point wasn't the money. The point was that they'd tried to treat us like machines, like our basic human needs were theft. And we pushed back. We'd won. I still work at Meridian, actually. The new warehouse manager is a woman named Darlene who seems to understand that treating employees like humans produces better results than treating them like criminals. The bathroom doors no longer have badge swipe trackers. The break room has a new coffee machine. It's not perfect, no job is, but every time I walk past those bathrooms without feeling like I'm being watched and timed, I remember what it took to get here. And I remember that sometimes the only thing standing between a company and blatant illegality is one person who's willing to read the law and say no. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole story. If it resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you've got your own workplace nightmare, whether it's an illegal policy, a terrible boss, or an HR disaster, I want to hear it. Drop your story in the comments or send it to us directly. Your experience might just be the next video. Until then, take care of yourselves and remember, know your rights. Nobody else is going to protect them for you.